This was the moment that Tadej Pogačar came off of his bike during the Strade Bianche, and oh my goodness, stay tuned to find out exactly what happened. During the pre-race interview, Tom Pidcock was pretty monotone and boring, not really stating his plans or who he was scared of in the race. Tadej Pogačar was a bit more interesting, stating that he was actually nervous and slightly scared about the cobbled sections and some of the riders in the race who he respected. Early on with the race underway, nothing really happened, the pace was super slow and a lot of the riders were really just jostling for positions. A couple of groups had some breakaways, including some leads of around 1.5 to 2 minutes. Again, no major attacks, nothing to really worry about, but our key favourites of course were up there. Tom Pidcock of Q36.5 and of course Tadej Pogačar of Team UAE. Right now in this race, I was just looking, a couple of the riders were chatting, nothing much was really happening. However, once we get closer to the halfway mark, the watts start to increase and some of the riders began to actually drop off. This is when we separated the men from the boys. However, the highlight of today's race was coming around one of the turns. Now this was a very subtle turn and you could tell that some kind of farm equipment or machinery had been driven through here on a tractor because there was a lot of loose gravel and dust. Tadej Pogačar's front wheel caught on this and just completely skidded. It was basically taken from under him and his bike went flying sideways and he landed directly on his left shoulder and his left thigh. This was doing quite a bit of damage, however, he slid straight off the road and Tom just had no choice but to keep going. Tom had been having a friendly chat with him only minutes before, and now here he is having to just leave him in the middle of a ditch at the side of the road. When I watched this, I thought there's no way Tadej's coming back. This is just too much damage. Tom is going to use this as an opportunity to drop him completely. There was going to be at least a 30 to 45 second gap, and I thought that was more than enough for Tom Pidcock to pull away. However, what happened next was just shocking. Tom Pidcock didn't actually do that. He didn't push away. He didn't start dropping 600, 700, 800 watts. Instead, he just carried on cruising. He was just resting. And even the commentator said this, that Tom just seemed to be resting. And I think he did this out of respect, because I think he wanted to give Tadej a chance at coming back in the race, because he would have felt that he would have won it kind of unfairly, even though it just would have been good luck basically. Tadej and his team quickly got him back going with a new bike. He had a lot of cuts and scrapes and grazes. He was bleeding on his shoulder and his thigh, a lot of mud all over him, but other than that he didn't seem to have any major injuries and now had to close that gap, which had roughly got to around 45 seconds to 50 seconds. This wasn't actually going to be too difficult to shut though, because Tom Pidcock was not pushing hard. He was simply just cruising at around 200 to 300 watts. So all Tadej would have to do is make up the difference, which of course would be like attacking for a couple of minutes, but then he would close the gap, and of course that's exactly what he did. When I saw Tom's body language as Tadej approached, Tom looked like he'd just been on a Sunday morning, stage 1 ride. It's just easy basically. Right now we are looking at Tadej catching up with Tom. There's only 2 of them left in the race. They've got around a quarter to go and Tadej is trying to recover. He's taking on fluids, he's talking to the team car, he's trying to make sure he's got enough energy for the following few kilometers, as he knows that this part of the race is where the real race actually begins. His biggest threat in this race was Tom, and although Tadej managed to survive some of the cobble sections, it was during that bend where he almost ruined his entire race. Thankfully he didn't damage anything, and other than some scrapes and cuts, he was okay to get back on a new bike that his team quickly arranged for him and get back onto the wheel of Tom Pidcock. Tom was now ready to launch his attack, and I feel like Tom was just waiting for Tadej to come back, so he felt it would be fair and he could actually sleep at night, realizing that he gave Tadej a fair chance after an extremely bad stroke of luck that Tadej had. Tom proceeded to start dropping some pretty crazy watts up some of the inclines and the climbs. It wasn't enough though, as Tadej actually used this as fuel to overtake him and eventually make him look slow. Tadej began dropping crazy wattage to the point where Tim was just absolutely cooked. Tom was starting to seriously suffer at the back of the race until eventually he was popped off the back and Tadej had a gap of around about 15 meters on him. The crowds coming up this were going nuts. They were really going for Tom as well as Tadej, so there was a mix and even share of support for the fans going wild, but Tadej was just on another level. The guy was unstoppable, even after screwing up and busting up his shoulder, his thigh, his hip, bleeding and, you know, probably cuts that felt like they were burning and getting infected. He still managed to pull away from Tom Pidcock and win the race with what I would call ease. It was beautiful. This was a great win for Tadej Pogačar. Leave a like on today's video for Tadej Pogačar. Good luck and hopefully he recovers fast. Subscribe if this is your first time here at Cycling 101, as I'll be making all the latest race coverage, the latest drama in the cycling community, and the latest cycling news. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next video.